Consent of all participants. I consent. Okay, welcome to part 10 of The Great Gatsby, starring First Block, Fall 2020. Hold on. Apparently there's some kind of filter on it. Hold on. I don't know how you get it off. Hush. Where is the, how do I turn off this thing?
I think you have to press that.
Press what?
Do you see like the three dots or like the character little button?
I did that and I don't see where it would be use phone. Oh, apply visual effects maybe?
Yeah. And you should be able to
and then take it off. Okay, good. Oh, I don't look as good. Okay. But I'll do it for y'all. Yeah. Welcome. Starring First Block, Fall 2020. 2022. I was just kidding. 2022. I don't want to go back to 2020. Okay. All right. So we are reading The Actual Truth, starting on page 97 with The Great Gatsby, part 10. Ready? About this time, an ambitious young reporter from New York arrived one morning at Gatsby's door and asked him if he had anything to say. Anything to say about what? Inquired Gatsby politely. Why, any statement to give out. It transpired after a confused 5 minutes that the man had heard Gatsby's name around his office in a connection with which either he wouldn't reveal or didn't fully understand. This was his day off, and with laudable initiative, he had hurried out to see. So it's a wonder it hasn't happened already, but the news is getting hold of, wait, who is this guy that throws these huge parties? Where'd he come from? Okay, why is he suddenly because you're not going to fly under the radar throwing all these big parties, right? And all the money that he's spending. But if you're a part of organized crime, should you want to fly under the radar? Yeah. Okay, so this guy is a reporter and he was like, I don't know, people were talking about it. So he just kind of came out. He wanted to get to the story before everybody else did. It was a random shot. And yet the reporter's instinct was right. Gatsby's notoriety spread about by the hundreds. It says, am I still there? I am. Spread about by the hundreds who had accepted his hospitality and so become authorities on his past, had increased all summer until he fell just short of being news. What is notoriety? If someone says that you're notorious, what are you? You're well known, but there's something else in a bad way. Okay, like you're well known, but it's because of something connected, like in a negative way. Okay, so that's his notoriety. That word. It's a good day to film. He's notorious because they don't quickly know exactly where his money comes from, and they don't know exactly why he has all this money, being so young and all this kind of stuff. So of course, and people think about it, they're saying he killed a man. They're saying he was a German spy. All these rumors. Okay. Contemporary legends, such as the underground pipeline to Canada, attached themselves to him. And there was one persistent story that he didn't live in a house at all, but in a boat that looked like a house and was moved secretly up and down the Long Island shore. Mark that one more rumor. That's kind of a really far-fetched one, right? Just why these inventions were a source of satisfaction to James Gatz of North Dakota isn't easy to say. James Gatz, that was really, or at least legally, his name. Okay, so this is legally, his name is James Gatz. So you need to mark that, and you need to know that that's legally his name. He had changed it at the age of 17, and at the specific moment that witnessed the beginning of his career, when he saw Dan Cody's yacht drop anchor over the most insidious flat on Lake Superior. It was James Gatz who had been loafing the beach that afternoon in a torn green jersey and a pair of canvas pants. But it was already Jay Gatsby who borrowed a rowboat, pulled out to the Tuolumne, that's the name of the yacht, and informed Cody that a wind might catch him and break him up in half an hour. Okay, this is how he met Dan Cody. He was loafing on the beach, of Lake Superior. He sees that there's a yacht out there, and he knows that the weather is going to, could possibly hurt it. So he gets a rowboat to go out there to warn Dan Cody. Okay. How old is he? 17. I suppose he had that name ready for a long time, even then. His parents were shiftless and unsuccessful farm people. Underline that. To refer to your parents as shiftless and unsuccessful farm people. Does that sound like they left him a bunch of money from the Midwest? No. His imagination had never really accepted them as his parents at all. The truth was that Jay Gatsby of West Egg, Long Island, sprang from his Platonic conception of himself. He was a son of God, a phrase which, if it means anything, means just that he must be about his father's business, the service of a vast, vulgar, and meretricious beauty. So he invented just the sort of Jay Gatsby that a 17-year-old boy would be likely to invent. And to this conception, he was faithful to the end. Okay, so put in the margins that you know the description of his parents, shiftless and unsuccessful farmers. And then y'all, what is he basically saying that he did at 17? What is the Platonic conception of himself that he created? Not just his own business, but he made something. Y'all, he reinvented himself. He didn't like the fact that he was James Gatz of North Dakota and his parents were just kind of just normal, regular people. So he said, you know what? I'm not going to be that person anymore. I'm going to be Jay Gatsby. And he didn't know at that moment at 17 what that meant, but he started planning and he started doing all of these things to create this Platonic conception of himself. That simply means the best version of himself. He said, you know what? I'll just, I don't like who I am. So I'm just going to be somebody else. Now, obviously today it's hard to do that. We have to pay to change our name and legally and all that kind of stuff. Back then it was just no. So when he says to Dan Cody, when he meets him, he says, I'm Jay Gatsby. And he's never called James Gatz again. Okay, this is good. We're going to note this in just a minute. But let me tell you this. Go back to the top of 97. And I want you to write something. This is the part, don't write this yet, but this is the part that's out of chronological order. Gatsby tells Nick all of this later, but Nick's telling us now. Okay, so right up there that Gatsby tells Nick about his past in chapter 8. So this is technically it happens in chapter 8, but, and write page 148 on that too. So that way we'll know when we go back. But Gatsby or Nick is telling us now because there's kind of like a lull in his spending time with him. So he's like, now's a good time to tell you this. But you're going to realize in chapter 8 why he tells Gatsby all of this. Why Gatsby, tells Nick all of this. But that's a great question, Abby. 148. Yeah. Now, just because Gatsby told Nick this, does that mean it's true?
I mean, he also told him his parents.
I will tell you this, though, since I've read the book 70,500 times, this is true. Yeah. And you'll learn why he tells it and why it is true. I don't want to say too much. You'll see. But I am telling you this is the truth. Okay? Not spoiling anything, but it is the truth. All right. So he becomes Jay Gatsby. Okay. And he decides the type of personality he wants to have. He decides all these things. What at this moment does he not have, though? Money. Okay. Well, maybe that too. But yeah, but I'm talking about to recreate himself. He doesn't have the money. So we'll see. Okay. This is before he met Dan Cody that day. For over a year, he had been beating his way along the south shore of Lake Superior as a clam digger and as a salmon fisher, or in any other capacity that brought him food and bed. His brown, hardening body lived naturally through the half-fierce, half-lazy work of the bracing days. He knew women early, and since they spoiled him, he became contemptuous of them, and young virgins because they were ignorant, and of others because they were hysterical about things which his overwhelming self-absorption he took for granted. So in the parentheses, I want you to write, this is what he did before he met Dan Cody. So give me one thing, Tony, that he did before for a job. What did he do?
He was a clam digger.
He was a clam digger. Bailey, what else?
A
salmon fisher. And Alyssa, what else? It's not specific.
Very much into like
Well, no. What did he do before? Clam digger, salmon fisher, and then what does that last part say? Or
any other capacity.
yeah. So he just basically did odd jobs to get money and to get a place to stay. Now, when it says he knew women early, this basically means that women were attracted to him. Women flocked to him. However, he was not as interested in them as they were in him, simply because the younger ones were too naive and too ignorant, and the ones who were more experienced, they cared about things that he didn't care about. Okay, so he, and they lavish. I mean, y'all saw him; he's fine. Like they lavish all these gifts on him. They do all this kind of stuff, but he's too self-absorbed or he's too focused. I don't want to say self-absorbed, but he's too focused on his recreation of himself that he just doesn't want any of that. Okay. But his heart was in a constant turbulent riot. The most grotesque and fantastic conceits haunted him in his bed at night. A universe of ineffable gaudiness spun itself out of his brain while the clock ticked on the washstand and the moon soaked with wet light his tangled clothes upon the floor. Each night, he added to the pattern of his fancies until drowsiness closed down upon some vivid scene with an oblivious embrace. What does that mean that he does every night before he goes to sleep? Or how he puts himself to sleep?
He thinks of all the ideas he will do, like as he's being ready.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I haven't talked about this, or I haven't thought about this, and I got to figure this out. He's a thinker. He's very analytical. He's very, he wants to be a different person, so he knows that he's got to work for that, and so he talks to himself and he figures it out. Okay. For a while, these reveries provided an outlet for his imagination. They were satisfactorily a hint of the unreality of reality. A promise that the rock of the world was founded securely on a fairy's wing. An instinct toward his future glory had led him some months before to the small Lutheran college of St. Olaf in southern Minnesota. He stayed there 2 weeks, dismayed at its ferocious indifference to the drums of his destiny, to destiny itself, and despising the janitor's work with which he was to pay his way through. So he does try college. Okay, what happens? He doesn't, it's not for his thing, and so he leaves. What are the two reasons that the two main reasons, I guess, that he tells Nick that he doesn't stay? Give me one. Ryan. It comes right after he stayed there 2 weeks. In the middle paragraph that I just read, he stayed there 2 weeks, and then right after that, what is it? Why does it say he left? What does that mean? Anybody? It wasn't along with his plan. Okay, there was an indifference to the drums of his destiny. You know how they say, you beat to the your own drum, you have your own path to take. This wasn't for him. There's another reason. A lot of college students have to work, right? And he doesn't have, his family doesn't have money to send him, and so he is having to work. He didn't like that. Okay, he said, I guess maybe, I don't know if it's that he didn't like working or if he didn't like working as a janitor, but anyway, he left. Okay, so he's only at college for 2 weeks. Then he drifted back to Lake Superior, and he was still searching for something to do on the day that Dan Cody's yacht dropped anchor in the shallows along shore. So he's just been kind of fishing and doing whatever, he does, and he sees Dan Cody, and so this is when he meets him. This next paragraph, right in the margin, is a description of Dan Cody. Cody was 50 years old then, a product of the Nevada silver fields of the Yukon, of every rush for metal since 75. The transactions in Montana copper that made him many times a millionaire found him physically robust, but on the verge of soft-mindedness. And suspecting this, an infinite number of women tried to separate him from his money. So why is Dan Cody rich? How do he make his money? Say again? Mining. Okay. Silver, all these different things, many times a millionaire. And because it's hard work, he said that he's physically robust, but what does it mean that soft-mindedness? That women could take advantage of him. Yeah, maybe he's gullible, or maybe he's put too much trust, or maybe he's even just kind of tired, or maybe he's, possibly there could be some kind of, just not real alert anymore. Okay, so we're going to find out how women try to take advantage of him. Yes. The none too savory ramifications by which Ella Kay, the newspaper woman, played Madame de something to his weakness and sent him to the sea in a yacht were common knowledge to the turgid subjournalism of 1902. He had been coasting along all too hospitable shores for 5 years when he came up as James Gats's destiny in Little Girl Bay. So I need you to highlight James Gats's destiny. We already talked about his destiny wasn't school. Well, now he literally says that Dan Cody is his destiny. We're going to find out why. To young Gats, resting on his oars and looking up at the railed deck, that yacht represented all the beauty and the glamour in the world. I suppose he smiled at Cody. He probably discovered that people liked him when he smiled. We know that, right? So Nick says that's when he realized it. At any rate, Cody asked him a few questions. One of them elicited the brand new name, Jay Gatsby, and found that he was a quick and extravagantly ambitious. A few days later, he took him to Duluth and bought him a blue coat, 6 pairs of white duck trousers, and a yachting cap. And when the Tuolumne left for the West Indies of the Barbary Coast, Gatsby left too. Okay, so he meets him. Dan Cody is very interested in his ambition. He sees right away that he is someone that, will work hard and he's ambitious. He's like, yeah, come with me. Okay, he buys him some clothes. Remember, he's just been loafing along the shore. He doesn't really have nice clothes. Buys him a yachting cap, buys him, the clothes to look the part. Okay. He was employed in a vague personal capacity. While he remained with Cody, he was in turn steward, mate, skipper, secretary, and even jailer. For Dan Cody sober knew what lavish doings Dan Cody drunk might soon be about. But he provided for such contingencies by reposing more and more trust in Gatsby. So you need to mark all the different things that he does for Dan Cody, how he's employed in his service. What does that mean? Dan Cody sober knows what Dan Cody drunk might be about.
Dan Cody knows that he does stupid things when he's drunk, so he has to rely on Gatsby
to take care of him. Yes. What do we know about Gatsby and drinking? Does he drink at his parties?
No.
So do you think maybe this might be part of the reason? Maybe. So he trusts Gatsby. He knows that when he gets drunk, sometimes he is not a good judge of character. He might do some silly things, foolish things. So he trusts Gatsby to stay sober and to watch out for him. Okay, that's a lot of trust. This man is a millionaire a couple times over. Okay, and now he has this guy that he has put all this trust in. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight, obviously, but the arrangement lasted 5 years, during which the boat went 3 times around the continent. It might have lasted indefinitely, except for the fact that Ella Kay came on board one night in Boston, and a week later, Dan Cody inhospitably died. So Ella Kay is one of she was a journalist, and she had like a special interest in him, but it kind of sounds like, now obviously it could be that he had liver failure. It could be, any other thing, but we leave it cracked. Somebody thinks that maybe she had something to do with it. Okay, let's see why. I remember the portrait of him hanging up in Gatsby's bedroom, a gray, florid man with a hard, empty face, the pioneer debauchee who, during one phase of the American life, brought back to the eastern seaboard the savage violence of the frontier brothel and saloon. It was indirectly due to Cody that Gatsby drank so little. Underline that. Sometimes, in the course of gay parties, women used to rub champagne into his hair. For himself, he formed the habit of letting liquor alone. So women are still drawn to the Gatsby. Women are still, attracted to him, but he is not interested in that. He's more interested in becoming the person that he wants to be. Okay. And again, he doesn't drink as much because he saw what it did to Dan Cody. And it was from Cody that he inherited money. A legacy of $25,000. He didn't get it. He never understood the legal device that was used against him, but what remained of the millions went intact to Ella Kay. So somehow she bamboozled something, and either she made sure that he died or took advantage of his death. And Gatsby didn't even get the 25,000 of the millions. You think that she could give that, right? But he didn't get anything. 5 years. And he lost his best friend. Okay. He was left with a singularly appropriate education. The vague contour of J. Gatsby had filled out to the substantiality of a man. What does that mean? The single appropriate education, the singularly appropriate education. Because Gatsby didn't, or Cody didn't pay for him to go to school, right, Abby?
I believe that Nick's saying that whatever Dan Cody taught Jay Gatsby is what Jay Gatsby would use for his life to get what he wants.
Okay, so remember, if you're born of shiftless farm people, you don't know the classy etiquette things that you should know if you're rich, right? If your parents don't know that, you're not taught it. So there's a certain class system. There's a certain thing that, the way a certain, if you're rich, you're supposed to act. That's society, right? So Dan Cody was able to give him that type of education, which fork to use, what to wear, when to wear it, how to speak to people, what to do. So that part of like his manners and his etiquette and how to live and be rich, that is the singularly appropriate education that Dan Cody gave him. Does that make sense? Because y'all, I think that's one of the questions. Y'all need to make sure y'all know that.
I have a question.
Okay.
So, how did Dan Cody meet LK? I feel like
We don't know. I think she sought him out because he was rich, and then when she realized maybe doing a story or something, but then when she realized that she could take advantage of him, she probably figured out how to do that. Yes, please do. Yes. Okay, so you need to understand that that's the quote unquote education that he got from Dan Cody. Does that make sense? Because again, if you're brought up in North Dakota, you're not going to, on a farm, you're not going to know these things that a rich person would know. Okay. And I think this is the end. Oh, I have one more paragraph right here. He told me all of this much later, but I've put it down here with the idea of exploding those first wild rumors about his antecedents, which weren't even faintly true. Moreover, he told it to me at a time of confusion, when I had reached the point of believing everything and nothing about him. So I take advantage of this short halt while Gatsby, so to speak, caught his breath to clear this set of misconceptions away. So this is where he tells you why he puts it in here. It's out of chronological order, but he puts it in here to make sure that y'all know, to like all the rumors and stuff, they're not true, but this is the truth. Okay, and we're going to find out when it says he told it to me in a time of confusion when I believed everything and nothing. We're going to find out why that is when it happens. Okay, so that's the end of 10. Cool. And I will stop recording.